Imagine you've been lucky enough to have a delivery of flowers. But what do you do with them next? If you're looking for some handy hints to keep your delivered flowers fresh and beautiful for up to 2 weeks, watch on to the end of the video. I treat myself to a box of Freddie's flowers about once a month. I find them a really great pick-me-up. Ideally, you need to put your flowers in water as soon as they arrive. The secret to long-lasting fresh flowers is to put them into a really, really clean vase. Once my flowers have gone over, I usually rinse my vase out in hot soapy water, or if you're lucky, you may find you've got space in your dishwasher. I add tepid water direct from the tap, filling my vase about 1/3 to 1/2 full. I'm filming this video as part of the Sunday Funday challenge, which is hosted by Yanni and Diane from Deco Easy and Yvonne from the Ginger Chick Rehab. I'll leave a link to their channels in the show notes underneath this video, together with a playlist so you can follow along and watch all the videos that the other contributors have been making. Although I can check online to see what's going to be in the box before it arrives, I never do that, so it's always a fabulous surprise seeing what flowers I've got. So I've already unpacked some eucalyptus, some white tulips, and the blue thistles are called eryngium. These lilies are just fabulous, and they're really tight in bud at the moment, so they could be packaged easily in the box. But over the course of the next week or so, they're going to open up and give off a fabulous scent. And these glorious pink flowers are Lisianthus or Eustoma. Rather interestingly, this alstroemeria has come packaged with a little net over the heads of the flowers to protect the delicate buds. And the last flowers out of my box, well, you can barely see them, those irises that they've yet to burst into flower. And right at the bottom of the box are 2 sachets of flower food. I'll use one now and then one in about 3 or 4 days' time when I refresh the water, clean up my vase, recut my stems and arrange my flowers again. Having added water into my vase, the first thing I'm going to do is to cut open my sachet of flower food, sprinkle that into my vase and give it a swirl to help it dissolve. When I arrange flowers in a vase, I like to use my greenery first, just to give a bit of structure and help support the other flowers which I'll add in afterwards. And you can see me here measuring my length of the eucalyptus up against the vase, and from there I will decide how much I need to cut the stems down. Now here I've got a particularly bushy piece of eucalyptus, and I'm actually cutting the tip out and then putting the bottom section in later on. So I've got 2 placements of eucalyptus from out of the one stem, and I just measure up against the vase to see what length I need to cut, recut the stems and then take off any lower leaves that will end up inside the vase. You don't want the leaves falling off into the water and then starting to rot. Even if you think your flowers are the perfect length, you will always have to cut off the end section of the stem because it would have dried out a little bit between leaving the wholesaler or your florist and then arriving at your house. And you'll notice that the stem ends are very dry, and when you recut them, you're cutting back to the fleshiness in the stem. I've got 2 stems of the eryngium, so I'm putting one in one side of the vase and one in the other side of the vase. Ideally, you'd want 3 of each flower stem because it makes it much easier to arrange. You can imagine putting them in to make a little triangle shape. Florists and flower arrangers don't normally like to work in even numbers. It just doesn't add to the flow of the flowers, but you can disguise that easily with a bit of practice. You can see me here doing exactly the same things with my lilies. I'm probably taking off a good 2 centimetres off the end of the stem ends and getting rid of any leaves that will either be in the water or inside the neck of the vase. And again, I've got 2 stems of the lilies, so I make sure I put one in one side of the vase and one in the other. I'm going to add in my Lisianthus next, and again I've only got 2 stems of the Lisianthus, but they're quite bushy, so with a bit of careful planning and looking at your flowers, you might be able to cut out some of the stems where they branch off, and that'll give you more single individual placements to put into your vase, and again just helps to spread out your flowers through the vase so you don't get clumps of pink in one section and then a clump of pink in the other. And from that one stem I've managed to get 3 individual stems. I take off the leaves and then just push them into the vase where I can see a gap. Before you start arranging your flowers, it's a good idea to have an idea of where you're going to display them, whether they're going to be viewed from all the way round if you're putting them on the low coffee table, or whether they're going to be front facing if you're putting them on a sideboard or a side table. So just always remember where your front is and arrange them so that the best view is the view that's going to be seen. And don't forget that if you think you've put your flowers in the wrong place, you can very carefully just ease them back out of your vase and then reposition them, just taking care not to hold your flowers by the flower heads and try and pick them up by their stems so you don't damage them. I'm filming this at the end of February, so here in the UK it's going to be Mother's Day in just a couple of weeks. And if you'd like to get a discount on your first box of Freddie's flowers, do check out my discount code. I've left the details of it in the show notes underneath the video. I'll also leave a link in the cards up above to some other Freddie's flowers unboxing videos that you might enjoy. I was quite excited to find tulips in my box. These are the first of the season, well, the first for me anyway. And what I'm doing is pulling off the damaged larger leaves at the outside edge. Just be really careful when you do this because you will end up with stringy bits and you don't want it to be damaging the actual structure of your stem. You'll find that the tulips are quite short in relation to other flowers, but don't worry about that because they're a flower that do tend to grow when they're in the vase, so you won't see much of them at the moment, but again over the next few days they'll start to open out and grow and they will actually move towards the light. I'm going to add in my Alstroemeria next. These are on long straight stems and their delicate buds have been protected by this little net stocking, so you need to peel this off carefully and then your flowers will spring to life. As with all my stems, I'm holding them up against my vase so I can judge how long I will need to cut my flowers so that they sit nicely with the other materials in my vase. If you're in doubt here, always cut long and you can always trim a little bit shorter. Don't go too short to begin with though, otherwise you'll have a very stumpy looking arrangement. And my last flowers are the purple iris. So these have been supplied when they're in bud, and again that'll be because they're much easier to pack in the box, and of course having paid for flowers you want to be able to enjoy them from bud to full bloom and then as they start to fade. So it just looks here like I'm cutting the ends off two pieces of grass, but there are some iris buds inside there and they'll open up in the next few days. Before I rush off and place my flowers where I'm going to display them for the next couple of weeks, what I do like to do is tidy up and then come back to my flowers and just have a look at them, just see when anything needs to be tweaked or moved and that I'm happy with the overall appearance in my vase. And if anything does need adjusting, I can do that now without spilling any water over my polished surfaces. Well, this is what my finished bouquet of flowers looks like. I hope you enjoy following along my handy hints and tips and enjoy watching your flowers open over the next few days. Don't forget that after 3 or 4 days, you'll need to take your flowers out of your vase, clean your vase, add more water and use that second sachet of flower food to keep your flowers going for perhaps a week, 10 days, and if you're lucky, with the lilies, even a little bit longer. So what did you think of the flowers that came with my delivery this month? You'll have to let me know in the comments which particular flower is your favourite. Are you drawn to the lilies, the lisianthus, or perhaps the irises? Do let me know in the comments. And if you love flowers and all things crafting, why not look up my free Facebook group, Flower Start World? I'll leave the details in the show notes underneath the video. That's all from me for now, and I'll see you in the next video.